No, it's not. Not at all.
I'm going to call the meeting to order. Today is May 17th. It's 1 o'clock, and this is the Senior Services Advisory Board meeting. And we have an agenda in front of you. If you would please review the agenda and let me know if there is anything you would like to add into the agenda. All those in favor of the agenda say aye. Aye. Same sign. If they oppose, all right. Agenda is approved. Minutes. Oh, you ladies, you can sit at any chair. You can come to the table if you want. Kim sent the minutes out, and you have that in front of you as well from the April meeting. So if you had a chance to look them over, but if you hadn't, take a minute and look them over, and when you're ready, I'll call for approval.
They're front and back, if you didn't notice that. They're kind of long. They're part of over there.
If I could ask, if you're going to speak, if you turn your mic on, that would be helpful. Anybody have any corrections to the minutes? If not, I'll ask for approval. Is there a second?
Sure.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Thank you very much, Kim. Treasurer's report. Dennis is our treasurer, and he has asked to be excused. He will report at our next meeting. Public comment. Marie, have you got any comments?
I do not. Well, yes, I do.
You may.
Marie Howell.
I never think that mic is on, and maybe it's not. You have to turn it on at the back, but just speak up. We can probably hear you.
All I wanted to say was I went to the Dolly Parton, Kenny Rogers fundraiser. It was awesome. I had more fun. So I greatly appreciate it. Hopefully you'll do it again, or at least one similar to that.
Thank you very much.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Kimber. I've told her that enough times. See, that's why the best teacher she's only, or at least, no, she said she'll be around.
Yeah, I'm going to be
And
around.
thank you.
Thank you. Elaine, would you like to make a comment? Anything on the agenda? I did agree. We have another spot for you to speak later, if you prefer that. All right. So, all business, PR and outreach. Now, we have been asking the administration for lunch passes, meal passes, in case we run out of food or there are too many people that we can't seat in the center. And Karen says, due to internal controls, this project is not feasible. The township treasurer and accounting firm have indicated there are several areas of concern with this. So at this point in time, we don't have meal cards or guest passes.
Is this on or off? It's on.
Well, if you touch it, it should sound like it's on. Yours is on.
Okay. Did she say what the concerns were?
She doesn't give details. No, it's in this email from Karen that you have in front of you. So also indicated in that part of the agenda is the fact that we have been requesting data on programs and services from the senior center. If you look at the second page of the email that Karen sent us, we have the numbers from July 22 to through April of 23. And I don't know if you saw this.
I got some.
Kim took the data from historic data that I had from all the years that I've been on the Senior Services Advisory Board to the present data, which Karen provided to us a few weeks ago. And then we looked at how much the programs and services have grown. And I really think that if you look at the numbers for 2022 on the graph that Karen has given, that Kim has provided for us, this graph, if you look at this graph that Kim has provided, you can see that the outreach that we have done intentionally in 2022 and 2023, that we have actually really bumped up those numbers tremendously. And one of our objectives in our strategic plan has been to do outreach into the community to increase the awareness of the community towards the senior center. And you can see that it's working. And that's a tribute to all the hard work that we have done to build the awareness in the community for the senior center. The numbers that you have provided these must be month by month in your packet are more like the numbers that we used to get than the numbers that Karen originally sent. I asked her if we couldn't have numbers so that we could compare to numbers that we had gotten in years previous. So she has done that, and for me, the frustration is that we actually, if you look at April of 2023, which is the last sheet on the memo the email from Karen, if you look at the total number of meals that we served, the first week of April was 67. The first time, April 3rd. On April 5th, we did 100 meals. The next time we had April 10th, we did 73. April 12th, we did 82. April 14th, we did 91. And if you compare that to what we were doing before COVID, we've literally doubled the number of meals that we are preparing and serving at the senior center. And the reason, one of the most important, valuable reasons for this data is that the township trustees who generally sit where we're sitting, without seeing data, will not allow us to move forward or discourage us in moving forward with the expansion because they don't think that we've grown. So getting these numbers in front of them was very, and continues to be very, very important to our ability to convince the township board that we have to look at expansion seriously. So these are really interesting numbers to look at in your, when you have some time, and when you take the opportunity to look at them and delve into them. If you have questions or issues or concerns, write them down so we can discuss them in more detail the next time we meet, because it's very, very valuable data. And I express my appreciation to Karen and Taylor for putting that together for us.
It would be really nice to see the same thing in the previous years, which Kim has done here.
Right.
Which is very helpful as well. So.
Right. This graph that Kim prepared, Kim and I shared with the township board at not earlier this week, but 2 weeks ago, and they were floored. And what she did then was she projected, if we continue to grow at this rate, what will it look like in 2025? They have to be thinking ahead. And hopefully when we present them with data like this, it will allow them to think ahead and plan for the future. Not that we haven't been asking them to plan for the future for years.
We've talked a lot about the to-go meals, but without the to-go meals, there aren't very many days that everybody would have a seat.
And I think that people come in and get their meals, and I think many of them would sit down if there was a place at the table.
Right.
It's not that
And a place to park.
It's If they wanted to stay, there's no place at the table, and I told Karen, we have 8 tables and 6 chairs. I told the township board, we have 8 tables and 6 chairs at every table, which means we have seating for 48 in there. We're licensed for 80 in there. So every table, we should have 10 tables, and they should each have 8 chairs. We have 10 tables, and we have 80 chairs, but they're making it look like we don't have room for people, and I think it's intentional.
We
Well-
always have 10 in ours.
Right.
Well,
Put the chairs
but on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're playing cards up front. And
Right.
we need those card tables, so there's not room for 2 tables.
So therefore, we need a bigger building.
We need to pick a building.
How about the jackets on umbrellas? Well, that's coming too.
Well, they've actually stained the deck last week, and they're putting the outdoor furniture on there, but 2 months ago, I asked them to put a shade or a blind on that patio door, because there are people who sit at your table who have cataracts and they can't see, and it's very difficult. And so I went to Karen, well, I went to Karen because the patron had asked Jenna and got no response. So I went to Karen, and Karen said she would talk to Ben about it, and Ben said, well, he wasn't going to put curtains or blinds up there, he was going to put a film on the window that deflects the light. And I said, that would be great, just do it. And it still hasn't been done.
My daughter has that, and it's very helpful. We did that when I was in there. We put the film on the window because it was so.
Even years ago.
Yeah,
Well, we have new doors.
And so it's easy to get.
Right, oh, it's
You
not
go to the
difficult.
Menards and you get that film, it's easy.
Right, I mean, you can go, yeah, right. And it doesn't take time.
Right, it doesn't.
Time-consuming job.
Yep. I could do it. I did.
Any of us,
I'll help.
any of us could do it. So you will also see in Karen's memo, because I asked her about what Jenna's been doing, and she has provided for us, under services and activities, that Jenna now has Tai Chi, Cooking for One, hearing checks and hearing aid clearings, a Mother's Day celebration, and an antique show were held in the month. And that we have, of course, regular events, hand and foot line dancing and bingo. And that, of course, we still have incontinence supplies that are available. I think the question that I have, which I've asked the township board, I've stood up there and said, Jenna is being paid for 26 hours a week. She's in the center 15 hours a week. We'd like to see her in there Tuesdays and Thursdays for 5 hours a day, that there's no reason post-pandemic that anyone who has a job serving seniors in that township should be sitting at home doing her work. And I told the board that because we work for them. We don't work for Karen. We don't work for the senior center. She's made that very clear, that we work for the board of trustees. And it's their responsibility then to take our recommendations and take action. Now, I'm not saying that we don't have an effective board member sitting here with us. She is one.
Outnumbered.
She is one among many, but I will continue to advocate, as we all should advocate, that the center coordinator should not be working at home, but should be serving our seniors from the office where she's being paid to work from. So,
Board, how do we get the board to decide that's something to do?
make a motion.
And not to mention that her bringing in Tai Chi cooking, she isn't the one that puts that show on. She's not the one that does the hearing checks or the cleaning of the hearing aid. She brings those people in, which is all good, but it's not consuming her time.
No. And Jenna does not listen to what we or the patrons tell her, that you should not have hand and foot and cooking for one, for example, at the same time, because people play hand and foot, want to participate in cooking for one. And also there's a problem with noise. If Jenna were working 5 days a week and she wanted to do cooking for one, why not do it on Tuesday or Thursday and have the center open and do programs and services?
That would mean she would have to come in.
Beg your pardon?
That would mean they have to say she's working at home.
That would mean that she'd have to come to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think,
Work at home.
And what does she do at home?
Does anybody have a clue? What does Jenna do? No, I mean, but working, she's getting paid from the township to do something at home. What does she do at home?
Elaine asked if she had children. Is that why she stays home? No, she doesn't have children.
Well, we shouldn't pay her to take care of her children, sorry,
No, we should pay her to be at work,
in my opinion.
in the city.
If they were to have the senior center open for services and activities, not lunch, but just services and activities on Tuesday.
No, I'm not talking about lunch. I'm talking about programs, services, and activities. Absolutely. We're paying her, she should be there. And if she doesn't want to do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, then extend her day on Monday, Wednesday, Friday to be there for the patrons. I speak to the township board almost every month about these issues. I am a lone voice. If y'all feel the same way, you ought to go.
Everybody could come and speak and take their 3 minutes before they get dinged out.
And we should bring all the seniors in and talk to them, bring them all.
I would make a motion here at this meeting that we get every senior center person who wants to have something going on over there to come and take their 3 minutes at the board meeting, and when they're dinged out, another one can go up.
Oh, they actually did you out.
Oh, yes, it's a new policy, and it's really loud.
Oh, is it like that restaurant up in these?
I mean, tell you what,
They just have it on a timer.
it is a,
It doesn't matter. They just have it on a timer. But
yes, if we could get everybody to come in and talk to them and make our meeting an extra hour long and make sure that everybody understands that this is a real issue.
well, it would be helpful, impactful, even if board members came. I mean, sure, we can get other people who are patrons to come. It's not dark at 6 o'clock like it is in the winter, I mean, so we can encourage people who would like the center to be open 5 days a week to come and speak their minds.
It's my understanding that it's a mileage issue for her, for Jenna. But when you take a job that is so many miles from your home, that's on you.
Absolutely.
How many miles does she drive, by the way?
Who cares?
No, my daughter drives to Stockbridge every day from Bath. That's like
Well,
an
if you
hour.
want to get paid, you have to show up to work,
Yeah.
usually.
Yeah. So, Sherry made a motion that we invite seniors to come speak to the township board. Is there a second? Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Can we finish this out?
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So, how should we do that? An announcement time at lunch at the senior
We
center?
can do emails, we can do the page on Facebook, we can put notices in the senior center, and when is the board meeting, and please come and speak to the board. What else?
If they don't want to come and speak in person, they could send
Send to anyone they
Write a
want.
letter.
I have it.
somebody can read them.
Somebody can read it, and then if they get dinged out, we'll just have some kids read it.
I think we make an announcement at the senior center.
Every single luncheon, make it.
Gee, what did you say?
I think we should make an announcement at the senior center for a week prior to, on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Monday, prior to the council meeting.
When it is and what time it is.
And maybe if we have it written out,
And we could have a form that we could say, this is my concern, so that they could have an idea what they're going to say ahead of time. They don't just go up to the mic cold. They could have a form that they could read.
Could you make that form, Jean?
I sure can.
and everybody could read the same form,
Mhm.
that's
Well, they
okay.
would have, they might have different concerns.
Right,
But it wouldn't just be one concern.
maybe make different sections.
So they fill it out, this is my concern, and they fill it out themselves, what their
Yeah.
concern would be.
Oh, yes, I will have a form. I will.
And you could even have,
So that would be something that we would do next week, because the board meeting was Monday this week, and so they don't meet next week, they meet the following week, June 5th.
are you gonna announce, what's the announcement gonna be? Because the announcement can't be, who wants Jenny here 5 days a week? Who wants the doors open 5 days a
No.
week? I don't
No,
know.
the announcement would have to be
Come to the meetings.
that the Board of Trustees is interested in hearing concerns of our patrons. They meet on Monday, June 5th at
Okay,
6
so if it's
o'clock.
just a general announcement,
Yeah.
they're encouraging you
Right.
to represent yourself and your peers' concerns.
Right.
Okay.
There's a, please come to the board meeting and
Right.
announce, speak to the board of your concerns.
Right. I mean, we had a community conversation, right? And there were recommendations in the community, from the community conversation. None of them, and that was in January, none of them have been implemented. Not one. I mean, they could have just listened and gone over there and painted the building pink. More vibrant colors, more welcoming. They could have assigned a greeter so that people are greeted when they come in and welcome. They haven't done anything, not one thing from that conversation. Not one recommendation has been implemented. Not one. Why? A waste of our time. A waste of the patron's time.
I was Karen that.
No, and so that's why you go and speak to the board, because there is absolutely no action
Right.
taken on recommendations that we were asked to bring forward.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
it's ridiculous.
it is.
And there's simple things that they could be done. A welcome station, a greeter, painting the building bright colors, make it look welcoming.
Give us welcome tags or name
Name
tags.
tags.
Put some placemats.
I'm a newbie, and I've asked for that for so long. Please, put name tags on. I want to know people's names.
Right.
Right, and the greeters.
I agree.
Somebody should be set
Well,
up.
this excuse is due to internal controls, which I didn't get mine or time to print it, so that's why I wasn't at my phone. Is it this one? This one where you read, why we can't get meal guest passes due to internal controls. Now, what in hell does that mean?
Yes.
That means you have to keep track of how many are paid, how many meal tickets are paid, and how many.
So I can go ahead and donate money to tickets and pay for them and have them there. How hard is that? What internal control would prevent me from buying 50 tickets
Well,
and handing the money
it
over?
would be, because you would be buying the tickets, and
And
then,
then somebody, maybe I'll get
If
some.
somebody doesn't have money to pay for lunch, then it goes on the fund.
This is,
Maybe she can explain it to us at the next.
maybe that's why we need to ask, what internal controls prevent us from painting the building?
Karen has not attended a meeting of ours in months.
Why
She is assigned to this committee. She does not attend. This is the first time in, I don't know, probably 6 months that she's even had the decency to give us a report. She ignores us. She doesn't open communication. And I went to the Parks and Rec Board meeting. It's actually called the Recreation Advisory Committee meeting last month, because they had a joint meeting with the planning board, and they were talking about a recreation plan that's being developed, a 5-year plan that's being developed by an outside consultant for $30,000. And never mind. And who is sitting at the table at an evening meeting but Lindsay and Rebecca, the staff people who staff parks and recreation? Why is our staff person not at the table? It doesn't make any sense.
Bring it up at the meeting. This is a problem. It's a universal problem.
No, it's not universal. It's a problem with Karen, Jenna, and the senior center. Not a universal problem.
Lack of interest, lack of whatever.
Communication.
I'd like to see someone greet people when they come in the door. I think everybody should get a number or whatever. And when your number's up, you sit there and you greet people when they come in. Ask them how they're doing today and whatever. And if you see something,
We pay a greeter.
yeah.
We pay Linda, and she sits in an office.
That's what I
She
said.
should sit right in the front there. Right.
Yep.
No, she doesn't greet anyone.
So, are you talking about the person who takes the money?
She's being
And if she, I understand, but if she's unable to do that, or they think that she should be behind the glass because of the money, then maybe the other person that's in that office could come out and greet people.
Wouldn't that be nice to see the program coordinator greeting people? her shoe was untied. I knew if I got down there, they'd have to get a hoist to get me back up. So I got Jenna and I asked her, would you please tie her shoe for her? And she came over and did it.
Oh, yeah. That was kind of her.
It's not that she's not, it's not that she's not kind.
No. Not that she's not kind.
And the reason I was late was Annette was having problems. She got dizzy on the way out, so I stayed with her until she got in her car and was able to drive. So,
Great job.
thank you.
When do you want to talk about our
Right now.
senior center visits
Right now.
right now?
Right now. So we are talking now about events and community engagement. We will have an update on the cricket show, but I want also to talk about the fact that Kim organized for us to all, as many of us who wanted to visit senior centers in the region. So we went to Prime Time, Meridian, Williamston, Eaton Rapids, Charlotte. I went to Red Ledge yesterday. It was beautiful. And I have a friend there. So Kim has done a summary report of our visits, which actually shows you some of the similarities, some of the differences, and what some of the operations of these other senior centers. And I'll be glad for you to add what you learned in Grand Ledge as we all have a discussion here.
Can I ask you when you got your note from Karen? Is that 11:41? Okay, today.
So
Okay, it wasn't just me.
what I'm passing out is a lot of stuff, but it's good for you to glance at, not necessarily read everything. What these are
I used to pass out.
yeah,
Pass down.
all of them. Yeah. What we did is we went to. They're not the same. We went to 4 different senior centers, and what I grabbed was their newsletters, and that's what I passed the these around. Their newsletters are like 20 pages, and some of them are sent out every other month, some of them are sent out monthly, some of them are sent out quarterly.
Again, this was a recommendation of this conversation that we have newsletters.
So this is what I put together, a list of the similarities on the front page, and then behind it, I highlighted each center and what the pros and cons are of each of the centers that we visited. It's a really great reference. And it's a nice tool to be able to visually see how our center compares to other centers. And the newsletters are really, really nice.
In addition to that, Kim and I went to, Ben as well, we went to a regional senior center directors meeting. So all the senior center directors in the region meet together once a month. And so Kim and I and Ben went to one of those meetings, and they said that Jenna had attended that meeting several months ago but had never come back. And they encouraged us to encourage her to attend these meetings because they're phenomenal networking meetings. They work together as directors, and for instance, they will rent a bus, like an Indian Trails bus, and they'll use patrons from all these different centers in the region to fill that bus to go to a Tigers game. Because each individual center doesn't necessarily have enough patrons to fill a bus, but when they collaborate together and they network, then they can fill the bus from all the different centers in the area.
Nice. So what I handed out was the 7 dimensions of wellness. And that list I thought was a really good summary of what we should be doing as a senior center. And this is basically the mission statement for the Primetime East Lansing facility. It's at the Hannah Center. I have some pictures of the building, but what I also passed around was, this is the one in Eaton area. What I passed around was some of the pictures inside the building, along with the newsletter, and I think it's important enough to take the time to go over this list. What do you think, Judy?
Oh, I do.
All right.
You know what, the common, these things in common?
Yeah, the common ones. Okay, so, the staff was passionate. Everywhere we went, they were excited to see us. I talked on the phone to them to schedule they were just like all about, pushing for their facility and their connection, and just it's super welcoming. What also they had was they had a table at the front that greeted people immediately, and it was colorful, and you didn't have to go to the back corner of the facility at all to find where there's a person. I mean, I sit at the front table at the senior center, and it seems like people are, periodically asking me, where do you pay for lunch? What do you do? They're kind of lost.
Well, they don't know what to do because many of them haven't been there before. And if they come during lunch, they just get in line.
I'm gonna.
Right. They don't even pay.
So, one of the things that I think that I heard about at our senior center that I don't think, like Judy said, could be a small improvement that would affect a lot of people is having a drink station, so that when folks are there doing cards or doing any kind of an activity, or just coming in off the street, they can go over and get their, hot coffee, hot tea, cold water, cold pop, as part of just I'm here and I want to sit and relax and connect with all of you. Where I think that kitchen shuts it down after lunch. I think that there should be a drink station open, like I've seen at Eaton County, would be really nice. As long as the building's open, I think that should be available. The websites are very nice. They're vibrant, they're easy to use, they have calendars, they have all kinds of anything you want to know about that building and the facility on there. Most of them charge an annual membership fee. Most of them have to find their own funding. Their buildings are not the best fit for seniors. There's several buildings that we went to that you have to walk quite a distance to get into them. At Williamston, if you'll read their summary, it's a beautiful place. It's in the high school, but you have to go up to the third floor. It's a very small old elevator, and then it takes a long walk to get to the building entrance. And like they said, if there's a fire, the elderly can't use the elevator. They can't fit a stretcher in the elevator. They couldn't, go down the stairs in an emergency if they had to.
And they're temporarily housed there.
And their lease is up in I think 2 years, and their lease is free rent, and they have to solicit for a new millage.
That's more detailed.
Yeah. So anyway, we're blessed is what I'm saying. Our parking is right there in front of us, and it's never enough space.
And they're open every day from 9 to 4:30, and many of them only serve lunch 1 day a week.
Yeah.
What was that? They're open every day?
The majority of them are 9 to 4. They all have really nice newsletters. They mostly all of them have to have reservations for lunch a week ahead of time. They don't offer any assistance like we do for the personal care products and the wheelchairs and the walkers, canes, whatever else we offer on the side there. I ask them what they do when they find out that a resident is in, or a patron is in need, and they said, we just don't call 211, and that's all that we can do because we don't have staff, we don't have the resources. That's all. Whereas we put together that great big list, and we have the Tri-County Office of Aging and Clinton County pamphlet also as a resource. And no one's even close to offering lunches compared to ours. In Meridian Township, which is a huge community, they can only seat 25 people, and they said that maybe 20 will show up. And then it's only once a week, and it's a sponsored lunch for the one of the other schools bring the lunch in.
Comes from the high school cafeteria, and they charge $7.
Yeah.
For
Yep, they were just, everywhere we went, they were so impressed with the large crowd that we're drawing here in Bath. They couldn't believe the amount of staff we have. One of them that we went to, there's an assistant or an aide, whatever you want to identify her as, she gets paid for 5 hours a week and predictably works 25 hours.
The passion in the staff at these facilities was amazing. And they were bending over backwards to be kind and share their resources with us. The one place that was just blew my mind, and Ben was with us, we went to Charlotte, to the senior center in Charlotte, and they raised $250,000 a year, the staff does, to keep that center open. I mean, they do huge events, and it's a lot of gambling. There's a lot of...
They're doing this high roller gambling event in a couple weeks, and it's $250 a person to go in for a dinner. And they can only take in 150 people, and they sell out every year, and the grand prize is $10,000. So you're 1 in 150 chance of getting that $10,000 prize.
So, okay, they give back everything that they take in, correct?
No, they use it.
No, they're
That's the
not.
only thing they give back is that $10,000. The rest of that they use because they have to raise $250,000 a year to run the center. Incredible. I mean, the dedication on the part of that staff and the events committee, we sat in on an events committee meeting with them, was amazing.
One of the things that I thought was really important when we went to that meeting was they said that COVID, what did she, where the people that, after COVID, the age, where they didn't come back. They retired, they quit volunteering, they didn't come back. So what they found they had to do was they opened up the entire membership and the board to any age. But you have to be 55 or older to vote. Because they said that everybody's getting so old and they weren't getting new blood. They weren't getting people to come to their facility anymore, and they were losing a lot of money during COVID because they couldn't rent their facility out. They have a dance floor and they have a conference area, and so what
Full commercial kitchen.
what they said they did was they started having like breakfast with the Easter Bunny, hot chocolate with Santa Claus, and they started having all
Pancake breakfast.
these themed parties to bring families in because the seniors were loving being able to bring their grandkids to the center.
Yeah,
And that brought the parents,
a lot of
and then that
interest.
continues the legacy and continues people being interested. But it's a big, beautiful facility with a full commercial kitchen, and that's a lot of them didn't have commercial kitchens either because they're not serving in the
Which
kitchen.
facility are you talking about?
But they had a church there that was donated, purchased by someone and personally donated, and then they renovated it during the renovation that burnt down. So now they have this beautiful facility. With a full basement, it's got tons of storage for all of these events.
These were very, very interesting visits.
And the coordinator, she's been there 18 years, and she lives and breathes this place, I'll tell you what. She said that her kids, I shouldn't say this in public, but she said her kids didn't come to dinner till they smelled the smoke. She was a terrible cook. But she had to learn how to manage that commercial kitchen to make it so that this business could thrive.
Yeah, and she took on
And she went and partnered herself with local caterers to teach her how to provide food for large groups. And that's what she did. And then she trains people, volunteers within.
And
So this person, how is she paid?
from that money she raises,
That's it, she's not paid by the township?
No, it's a
Okay.
private.
Sweet.
Maybe that's the way to start.
Maybe we all need to do something like
maybe
that.
we need this.
They are non-stop fundraising. They go from one event to the next, to the next, to the next.
It's exhausting.
I mean, they go to county parks, they do the helicopter, you probably saw the flyer, they do the helicopter rides and everything. They just are continually shaking it up and getting outside the comfort zone of, we gotta do something more. Because you never know when something else is gonna happen, like the pandemic, no one knows.
Ben, do you have any comments on what you saw when we were out visiting all these places?
All I can say is I know the Charlotte one is a 501c3 funds it.
It had the nonprofit status.
It's a nonprofit status, you can apply for that 501c3 status through the state.
Well, yes, the township is 501c3 status.
So,
We have that status here at the township, a 501c3 status. We already have that. Marie?
You know, Plain County, you're absolutely correct, and I love the idea that you're separate from township. When you talk about township having 501c3, you piggyback with that. You yourselves don't have it.
No,
Is that
right,
correct? Okay.
right.
Because I'm speaking as an individual,
Thank you.
just so that you know.
Okay.
Dana, did you have a question?
So senior center could have that status and raise money tax-free donations?
We raise money, and we just did that huge event.
I think what she's saying is that we could do this aside from the township, right?
That's what I'm
Or
wondering.
separate ourselves from the
Separate it so that
township.
you could say.
You wouldn't want to do that.
Why?
Oh, that would be awful. You'd have
Because
to
you have to
pay
pay for, you have to pay the staff, the maintenance, the building, the food.
And if you're making $250,000 a year, does it matter?
I could never make
No, no, no.
$250,000 a year.
The
I think
the
it's great.
Sherrod area is this huge area. It's not this little one township of Bath. It's many townships that are there. And it's like in Williamston, there's like 5 townships that contribute to Williamston. It's not just the little city of Williamston. Their resources are way better than what we have here. So, what I'm passing out now is a thank you list that Elaine generously has offered to follow up with us. Did I give you a thank you list, Jane?
I'm sorry?
And we need to know if there's anybody else we should add to that. I did think of one. White Brothers donated
I
on
don't think the
benefit.
basketball's on here.
I already did that one.
You did, okay. What was that?
So we're changing topics now.
We're talking about this.
So can I just ask if anybody has any additional comments or questions to make about our visits to senior centers?
Oh.
Very
Oh,
interesting.
well,
Oh,
Nancy, one in Meridian Township has this great big, pad of paper. and it's-
Flip chart.
I have it written on there, 2 foot by whatever. And it involves dreaming. And that was really cool.
it's called a dream board.
They have a red apron right by the front door.
Yeah, all of your patrons, whoever attends there, wishes or ideas for the group to do.
Yeah, it was
On
in here,
here,
pictures in here.
individual people put ideas on here, band for trips, cardio drumming, provide bus for outings, cell phone lessons, cooking lessons, which we do, taller toilets for handicap, breakfast for lunch, pedicures, manicures, more build-your-own lunches, computer help.
These were some of the suggestions that were on their dream board at Meridian Township.
Yeah,
And it's a great way because then all of the patrons get to see it and they're going, yeah, I agree with that one. The administrative people see it and it feels like they're coming together to express themselves, right?
yes.
And it's super cheap, but it's very welcoming, like we want to hear from you on a daily basis. You don't have to say, hey, I think we should do this or that. You just put it on there and it's in hard copy, you know.
That way you don't have to mention to, say, the coordinator, things that we think maybe should take place. You've got a board that everybody is saying, hey, this would be nice if we could do this.
I forgot, Nancy, that you were with us that day, but we also talked about the fact that we do have a suggestion box at the senior center, and that one of the things that we should do to get it used more is, 1, let people know it's there, and 2, put cards on the table so people have suggestions, they could write them down and put them in the suggestion box. But I like the dream board because it shares with everybody what other people are thinking, and it allows others to say, oh, that's a good idea, what about this?
I agree, I like that.
Yeah.
What's it build your own lunch?
I don't know.
Okay.
What'd you say, Dan?
I asked what was build your own lunch. They
Like
want
make a salad or make
Or
a
build your own.
sandwich or or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll just have to send it on.
There's more, they want it good.
It's an incomplete list, but it's a good start.
Good start.
Okay, so Kim, do you want to talk about the event now?
Yes, I just handed out the silent auction items. I just put that together. It's incomplete, but it's a really great start of all the items that we offered everybody.
Which
The one,
one? Is it 251?
yeah, the one that just came out.
The winning bid's not on.
The winning bids aren't on there because I don't have the bid sheet. And Cindy has been
Working on it.
working on it. So when she gets that information, or maybe she'll compile her own list. I've shared this list with her, but we haven't been able to connect yet. So I just thought it was a huge turnout of donations, and I think we needed to have that brought to the attention of the committee. That Cindy did a great job, Elaine did a super great job. You know, we all did what we could, and it sure reflected that in the donations. Absolutely thankful for everyone that helped out with that.
Kim, what is this page?
That's the thank you cards that Elaine has offered to send out, and she's already filled those up. If there's any
Shirley's
that
last name is not Cordaway.
I'm sorry, I didn't correct that.
Oh,
She knows that. I think I told her in a text message what her last name was, or if not, I meant to. Shirley's last name, remember I said
Shirley, which one?
question mark on that?
It said Ordway.
It does, but it's not right, and we talked about it. What is her last name?
Is your name spelled incorrectly?
No, it's a totally wrong name.
I know I've already done it.
Durkee.
D-E-R-K-E.
I think Jean is filling the name for you, Elaine.
Yep, got it.
All right. So, by next meeting, we want to have everything complete for the fundraiser to present to you guys.
Can we appoint someone to get in touch with Cindy and get everything from her, the bid sheets, the items that were bid on that have not been passed out to people?
I've emailed her. I know that other people have called her, and they've actually shown up at her house, and she's not responded yet.
Oh.
Not really sure why.
Not ready.
I'm not really sure why, but
But what is there not to be ready? Why can't she just hand it over?
I'm not sure what her situation is at all.
Judy, do you know? Why she can't just hand it over?
I don't know the answer to that. I was hoping that Dennis, because Dennis asked her, he made a specific request to Cindy to manage the silent auction for us this year, like she had done 3 years ago. And she agreed to work with Dennis to do that. And so my feeling is that
Should it be done?
Kim has reached out to her in several ways, and very kindly, and Cindy has not responded. And I don't know if it's because Kim didn't ask her initially to get involved, or if she's just super busy and hasn't had time. But I thought if Dennis, since he invited her to participate, asked her for the information, she might be more willing to share or give it to him. But Dennis is not well right now, and so he can't do that. And so Kim has again gone to her yesterday with a very kind, very detailed email asking her for the information. I just think we have to give her a chance to get it together.
I'll talk to her.
Well, I know one of the people, Shirley, that won something in the auction, she must have paid for it.
I
needs
mentioned
to
that
pick it up.
Yeah, it was in Kim's email.
And she can't get a hold of her.
Right.
Well, how many others are, how many
So
others?
Sherry, can you do that? Sherry's a good friend of Cindy, so let's get Sherry
Yeah.
to see if she can help us.
Just hand it over.
Right,
Yeah, I'll get it.
right.
So we had a really great meeting of our committee on May 10th, and
A wrap-up meeting.
a wrap-up meeting. I thought it was really important to do that while everything was fresh with us about where we were at, what worked, what didn't work. I put together some preliminary reports, and I handed those out today in a packet to the ones that aren't on our committee and weren't there, so that you kind of have a good feel for where we were at as far as income, expenses, what tickets were sold, what ones were will call. We were concerned that the will call people weren't going to show up and pay for the tickets, and everybody showed up. There was only 2 that didn't, and those tickets were paid for, so that was really good. The program was a huge success as far as finances go and printing goes. Dr. Kelly helped us out tremendously with that. We were able to pause the print for 2 to 3 weeks in order to continue to sell ads, whereas if we would used the printer we had in mind, we would have had cut that short quickly. So we were very grateful to her for that. And it's really pretty. It's all colors, and the Elvis one was just all black and white except for the cover page. So
I got some of it in also.
come on. Extra program. Thank you. I put together a binder, and it's the one I was using all along. And I've got dividers in it by category, and I left everything in it. Like for the school, where I drew out the parking lot, counted all the parking spaces at the elementary school and the bus garage and the middle school. The auditorium, I drew that all out and counted the seats on an Excel spreadsheet. That's all in there. The signs that we used are in there, the programs in there, the tickets are in there. Everything for reference is in this binder so that we don't have to recreate like we had to from Elvis. With Elvis, we had nothing to go off from. We had to dig just to find the coupons, and we ended up getting, or the tickets, we had to get those from the printer and the old programs. So we put together this huge summary sheet. It's really detailed, and it was just to make comments based on our feedback. I'll update that after I'm able to talk to Dennis and Cindy, but I did hand out what we came up with just for conversation, for input. Some of the things that we talked about were...
Do you have that summary sheet? I thought we had to look at all your comments.
Yeah. Our advertising was huge. We were all over the place. I don't think we could have done any better than that. The advertising went on and on and on, from radio to magazines to Facebook to community events. And we just did our best, and we couldn't really sell the tickets. It could have been priced, but our prices are, we talked about that from the beginning, and we were much lower than anybody else on our spreadsheets that we got from all over in similar venues, similar entertainers. Some people have mentioned that they really wanted to have another event. They had a lot of fun, and Dolly Parton, a.k.a. Lori Lynn, her husband is a Neil Diamond impersonator, and I just handed this out to you, and it's Lori and her husband, Will, have an act together called Diamonds and Rhinestones. It's a Dolly Parton and Neil Diamond tribute. All right? She's got on that flyer $20 for the both of them. Another thing that was brought up was there's an up-and-coming country star, and her name is Sadie Bass, and she's from Bath, and she's a graduate of Bath. And she's so popular right now that she's opening acts for famous country and western singers, all right? That was talked about to have her come to town. Well, I went on her website, and in actuality, she's going to be over at the Eagle Eye Golf Course, June 28th, which is a Wednesday at 7 o'clock, and tickets are $50. And they seat at the most 500 seats. And it's all on the floor. No. Or you can order drinks at 6 o'clock. There's no dinner. And the drinks aren't included. It's just the show. And I went on Soaring Eagles, and they're all starting out at over $40. And they go up to $450 a ticket, for, James was, anyway, for Old Time
When
Singers,
is she gonna be at Eagle Eye?
June 28th, 7 o'clock. She's going to be in Owasso, too. And there's a couple places that aren't too far away, but, it's during the week even at 7 o'clock. So I don't think our price was high. I think that,
It wasn't high enough.
well, we were a double act for one, and I think that Charlotte at Christmas time, he was supposed to be their big headliner for the year, and they only sold around 140 tickets. I think at Elvis, we sold around 200 tickets. I think that when we plan another event, we should just expect to sell around less than 200 tickets and try to make our expenses reflect that, and know that we can't have some of the higher end expenses that we've put into it with this one, which was, the printing of the flyers, and, maybe we didn't need to send the flyers with the business letter, maybe we just needed the flyers to be able to hand to them when we knock on their doors to sell the ads. Maybe we didn't have to print as many programs. Maybe we didn't have to do the radio station. It would depend on what the genre was of the next entertainers. But definitely everybody had a good time. They loved it. They want to do it again. As soon as we, got together after that, the senior center was like, when are we doing this again? So there is definitely excitement about it.
I do think it needs to be in the afternoon. Because we have a lot of people that didn't come or couldn't come because it was at night.
I think that's a great suggestion. We looked at that because out of all of them that I researched out, and I think I had like 20 that I put on that spreadsheet, there was only 2 that were 2 o'clock.
Oh, that's.
There was only 2. The rest of them were around 7 o'clock.
One of
This
those
one
was
said
at
guys
night.
said they weren't used to being up that late because most of them are at matinees. So that was a setup that told me that.
The setup?
Yeah, because I wandered out through the back because I was one of the
I
last.
looked at Alan Turner's website too. And it shows all his tour dates and stuff, and there was like nothing on his.
I do think, though, that Jean is right, that we ought to consider a matinee, because if we had a matinee, I think it would be easier to sell bulk tickets, 10 tickets to an assisted living facility. I think it would be much easier to bring people in.
And we're available during the day.
They just don't have the staff at night to do an outing.
So what I tried to do on these spreadsheets was I was trying to tie it into the money that I know that the township had received as of April 29th, as far as the ticket sales and as far as the program ads go. So anything beyond that will be updated by the next meeting. And our target was to net a certain amount, and as far as the business plan goes, and we hit that goal easily. So the business plan that Dennis worked on for the Elvis entertainers, and this is something I don't.
I have it.
Oh, okay. So it was part of it. These are just extra copies. The business plan that Dennis put together for the Board of Trustees and as a guide for us. He filled out his part of it. I filled in some of mine on it, and it's finished, but we need final numbers to be sure on most of it, So we're gonna tie that up to the next meeting too. But like I said, it's something that between Dennis and myself, I think we got it figured out pretty darn close. So I think that's all that I have to say about everything. If you have any questions, it's a lot of information. I try to keep it understandable. Please get with me so that I can offer an explanation or maybe change it before next meeting. Thanks to everybody for all the hard work. Everyone there, I think, was pretty thrilled with the results. It was
session will.
Well, we don't know.
We don't know that yet,
Options.
since we don't have the final
We don't
numbers.
have. Well, it will be, in the end, you're right, because the majority of it was turned in by Dennis the night of, I bet, so.
Oh, yeah.
But what I have been advised is to not repeat these numbers until they're final. Everyone at the centers want to know what the net profit was, and we just need to tell them that it was a success, and that we've been able to add to the savings account.
As of right now, until we have one, right?
Right.
I don't know if we have to tell them how much money, I don't know, it's everybody, I don't know if it's in our best interest to do that.
I do, they deserve to know.
If they're asking.
Well, I think that people who volunteered and worked and helped us with the event, you know, if they want to know the number, I think that's okay, but I don't know that it's absolutely necessary that we stand up there at the announcement zone the next time they have meat and potatoes, you know, when the room is absolutely full, and that the Senior Services Advisory Board, working in partnership with the Senior Center, made this much money at the event. We can do that, but we don't have,
We should.
we don't have that number right now.
Yeah, I know, if you don't, then you say, when we do have the number, and you don't tell them, it's like we're being sneaky.
No, I'm saying,
When we get them,
I'm saying, you know, if, I don't think we've got past that, these are the, did you get, these are the minutes from last meeting. Were those approved first off, right? Or not?
Yeah, we did the April minutes.
Alright. So was that part of Karen's package?
Well, I would just say that,
Alright.
I would just say that Kim and the committee did a phenomenal job.
Absolutely.
We could not have done it without Kim's leadership. She's brilliant, and she did a fantastic
You're
job.
only as good as the people behind you. We heard that at the senior center from this lady that we were very impressed with. She says, I'm only as good as the people behind me.
That's right, she
Without
had,
their support.
she had a whole team of people that she provided the leadership to. And without the team, and I think many of us pitched in at the end to really help get the event up and off and running. I think every single member of the board helped that night, you know, of the event.
Yeah,
And-
everybody like that.
And it was a phenomenal team event, and in and of itself, if we didn't make $10,000, we had a great event. One of the things I told Dennis when I was speaking with him last week was that we created an even greater sense of community within the patrons of the Senior Center, not only through their participation, their buying tickets, their attending, but also many of them volunteered, and many of them brought things for the silent auction. They felt like they were a part of something, and that just makes everyone feel so special and so important. And thank you very much to all of you who helped make this event such a success. Great job.
So the goal is to have the final report by the next meeting.
By the June meeting.
Yeah. And when Dennis is able to, you know, has time to talk to us and Cindy too, we'll have it figured out. There's not that much left in the report to figure out.
Do we need to meet as our committee before that meeting?
We can, if you want to.
You already had a follow-up.
Yeah, all we're doing is filling in the money that was received after April 29th, basically, that's all we're doing. So everything else is accounted for. And that silent auction sheet, you know, there's a lot of information there. I don't think there's that much missing from that. I didn't have any information about the gift cards, but I'm sure somebody's got record of all that. So, I had about, I don't know, at least 10 different gift cards on there, so I don't know how much more there's to add to that, but it's not much. We're really close right now.
And Kim has committed to helping us with the final auditing, you know, and accounting, I should say,
Yeah.
for the event.
That's why I say, if
When
you
we
got
get-
anything you
when we
want
get
to
the
look
information.
different, or you don't understand, talk to me now about it, and we'll, change it up for the final outcome, because this is something I'm gonna put in the binder too. Dennis and I talked about it, and he said that some of the things on that summary page are redundant to his business plan, but he wants to remove it from the business plan and use the summary as an addendum to the business plan. So he was pretty excited about everything that we went over at that meeting on the 10th.
Thank you. Any other questions for Kim at this time?
So who has the rest of the sheets?
Cindy.
Because I can't, okay, I cannot complete the stuff until I have addresses and names. A lot of this doesn't give names and addresses or anything, so I can complete the rest of it. I've gone through and marked the ones that,
Cindy has those.
okay, but I mean, the deeds are the ones that I have already done, but some of them I don't know who donated this.
Right.
So,
Right. So that's Cindy has that
Well,
information.
Dennis might have this on an auction sheet, right? Because he's the one that gave me just,
I have a package of them, but not all, there's not all of them there.
okay. We'll include you for sure. We'll let you
I
know.
mean, I have this right here, but that's not all.
Okay. We'll include you and,
Yeah, because I wanted to be.
Ben and Jean for sure.
I don't know why you have those. Where in
Ben gave me these,
Ben?
or not Ben. Dennis gave me this packet.
Okay.
So he knows where they are. Okay, good. Great job, everyone. Greatly appreciated. Fantastic. And there has been talk. I mean, even the patrons are saying, when are we going to do another show? You know, they thought it was that good. And the word in the community outside the senior center is very positive about it as well. Okay, so moving on to the architect. I've met with Karen about this. I've called Matt about this. Karen went to legal, she said, and had contracts drawn up, and she sent them to Matt, and they just didn't make any sense for what he's committed to do for us. And he's worked for a lot of townships on other projects related to architectural design services. So I asked him if it was possible to take a contract that she sent him and change it so that it fit his work, or if he could bring to Karen a contract that he's used with other townships that identify exactly what his commitment is. And he said he would do that. I spoke to him again day before yesterday. And in Karen's email, she says, the superintendent and the architect are finalizing the details of the contract. He said to me, I don't know why I need a contract. I've never dealt with a contract before. I just need a letter of agreement. We are emailing back and forth this morning, 5/17. This should be finalized when I return to the office at the end of May. And that leads us to the next item on the agenda, which is the capital improvement plan proposal. So the planning board released the CIP timeline, and the CIP proposals are due to the planning board on May 25th. We haven't even hired the architect. And when I said to Karen, so when I saw that, then the next day I called a meeting between Karen, the planning board, myself, and the township board, because when we went to the township board and said last year we were not going to apply for the CIP because we wanted an architect to come in and answer all the questions they had before the proposal was turned in, and we asked them for an architect, they finally agreed if we had a community conversation, they would bring an architect in. And this was 10 months ago. And I sat in that meeting with Karen and I said, you know that was our intention, to bring an architect in to answer the questions for the CIP proposal. And she sat there and looked me right in the face and said, I've never heard that before. I had no idea.
So are we done for this year?
No, just wait. And so I said that it was impossible for us to meet that May 25th deadline. And and I asked the planning board if we could have that extended. I asked for July, the end of July. And Karen said, well, really, I don't need the information from the planning board until the 1st of September. We could have until the 1st of September. And so then I went to Dan. I had reached out to Dan Kramer. He is the chairperson of the Planning Commission. I reached out to him before I had this meeting with Karen and Miles and Sherry and Taylor was there. And Dan agreed. Then I met with him personally after we had this little meeting, and I met with Dan after that personally, and he said he agreed that we could have an extension. And when they released the new deadline, their new deadline is now the end of June, not the end of July. So,
And not September like Karen said.
right, right. So now the deadline for the CIP proposals is the end of June, and the contract with the architect still hasn't been signed. For me, this is a deliberate, intentional delay on the part of the administration to take a project that she doesn't have time to handle and put it off until after Webster Road is built or after the sewer project is done. And it's very disrespectful to us and to our work and to our strategic plan, which the township trustees adopted. In my meeting with Dan Kramer, he said, well, where did you get the $20,000? Where did the township board take the $20,000 from for the community conversation and the architect? Please, we have not spent half of that money. They allocated that much money. We haven't spent half of it. That's not the point. And I said, well, they took it from the American Rescue Act plan money and the American Rescue Plan Act money. And he said, $20,000? He said, was that the first money they took out of there? And I said, yes. And he said, then it's their intention, and they should take the money to extend the senior center from that $1.3 million that they have sitting there from the American Rescue Act. American Rescue Plan Act. And when I sat in that meeting with Karen and Cheryl and Miles, I said, we have three options that I can see. We have the CIP money, the CIP plan, which the Township Planning Commission recommends to the Township Board, based on these proposals, that this is the money that they should budget for capital improvements, and included in that has in the past been the money for the senior center expansion. That's one option. The second option is this American Rescue Plan money, $1.3 million. The township has got no idea or plan on how to spend. And then the third option is that we have a budget balance of over $4 million at the township budget level that they need to allocate some of those resources, and that would be another resource that we could tap, or the township board could tap, for the expansion of the senior center. So, in my opinion, the delay it has been intentional on Karen's part. I can't see it no other way. We were very timely in asking for this, and she knows, because she helped me put on the agenda the request for the architect, and the purpose was stated. So, I am not willing at this point for us to give up on using the CIP process. It's really not up to us to determine whether or not the architect can meet the deadline of the end of June, because he doesn't even have a signed agreement yet. But when we have a signed agreement, that will be the first question I ask him. Is it possible that you can meet the end of June deadline for the requirements that we need for this proposal? And if he says no, then we have to look at other means of funding the proposal. So that's where we are with that. I haven't given up. I haven't stopped asking the question. I haven't stopped pushing them, but Dan Kramer said to me in our private conversation, he said, every time you turn in a proposal for the expansion, it gets the highest rating of any of the proposals that are turned in on the behalf of the planning board. And every time it's turned in, the planning board recommends funding to the township board. And the township board does not take the next step and put it in the budget. Right now, the reason the township board has not moved forward on anything is that they do not have a strategic plan. And in order to move forward on any project, it has to be in a plan. And so the board is at fault for not having a plan of action, some choice, some work that they feel should be prioritized in the township. And so they let Karen put her priorities on the table and just follow her along. Where we elect the township board and they should be setting the priorities. They should be making a plan. They should be doing their work and they're not. So like I said, I haven't given up on this yet. Bree knows I'm here every time they meet.
I got a quick question. Who did you say was at that meeting?
Who was at the meeting?
Yeah.
Sherry,
No, I know.
Miles, Taylor, Karen, and myself.
That's it?
And Kim.
And Kim.
And Kim.
That's all?
That was it.
Okay, so there wasn't any other board member other than Sherry that was there?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Questions?
Well, back when we talked about the CIP and whether or not we had the right one, didn't they, the board, say that you were correct and that we have asked for this money right along and done CIPs right along, that we didn't need to do another CIP?
That was last year, yeah.
That was not said? Something was said about the CIP and they go ahead and give you the first $5,000.
They've said that before, but they haven't said that this year.
But they did last year, before we spent and had a community conversation. Somebody said something to that effect.
It's quite possible.
Okay. No, before they gave us the money for the community. Okay, all right.
So does it have to come from the planning board?
The CIP, the capital improvement projects go before the planning board for recommendation to the township board, but it does not have to go through that process, no.
Who does the CIP? We do?
No, who writes the application? I've written it in the past. I've written the last 3. Karen has done one. She did one for the bathrooms, the handicap or accessible bathroom. We had money left over from the Capital Region Community Foundation. So the first time I wrote a proposal, which was about 9 years ago, for the CIP, and I wrote the proposal to the Capital Region Community Foundation for putting a commercial kitchen in the senior center. And we needed matching money, so we had to go to the CIP process to get the matching money for the Capital Region Community Foundation grant.
So we're going to the CIP, we're doing the CIP to match what money?
No, we're not doing it to match any money. It's asking the CIP, the Township Planning Commission, will recommend, based on how they score the proposals that come to them for capital improvements, they will recommend to the Township Board what capital improvements they should fund in the next year. It's actually a 5-year plan. So in the next 5 years, the Township Planning Board will recommend to the Township Board what capital improvement projects they should fund over the next 5 years.
So
And then the board decides.
So really, the architect, we need the architect's report before they can recommend to the board.
If it's possible for him to do the work that is outlined by the end of June, I don't know.
But we need that in order to fill out the CIP?
You need that information, yeah. So like I said, it's been, in my opinion, an intentional delay on the part of the administration.
So what's that way?
We had the conversations in January, and the architect was at the conversations. We've been working with the architect since September, I think. I did all the interviewing of different architects. I talked to probably 6 different ones. We interviewed 3 of them, or 2 of them, and decided on him. The one person passed away, unfortunately, the week I was trying to lock in the date. And so now we're at the middle of May. And we've been holding him up for like 7 months, and now we're expecting him to drop everything at his busiest time, it's spring, when people are putting the shovel in the ground, and expecting him to turn this project around in 2 weeks so that we can meet deadlines. It's so unfair.
It's disrespectful.
Disrespectful.
It's disrespectful from the administration to the Senior Services Advisory Board, and we work as hard, if not harder, than any other board that sits for the township trustees. It's disrespectful to the architect, to a professional, to put him off for so long. It's totally disrespectful.
So do we need to go to the board and ask them to give Karen a deadline to...
Karen's left town, she won't be back, she's left the state.
Right, but the next board meeting isn't until when?
She'll be here for the next board meeting, that's when she'll
Okay,
be back.
so do we need to ask the board to give Karen a deadline to come up with the contract for the architect?
I said that 2 weeks ago. I mean, I
Ask the board to
spoke to them about it, yes.
give them a deadline, to give her a deadline. Do we know what that deadline was?
No, that didn't happen. And Mary,
I wouldn't ask for a deadline, I would tell them what your deadline is. As a public
This is
person,
your job, and if it doesn't get done, you get fired, perhaps.
That's-
As superintendent, you can't get your damn job done.
Well, she said that...
I hope that's on the line.
She said that the legal took too long with trying to draw up the contract, or she tried to say that, well, she did say that Matt wasn't comfortable with the contract, but when he was talking to the 3 of us, he said he's done this before several times, to have a tiered invoice or whatever, where he split it between 3 different phases, and I'm not sure what the conversation is, why it had to go to legal, but her blame was that legal took their time with getting it done.
you know, I appreciate what's being said. I appreciate, you're absolutely correct. I appreciate what's being said. As a citizen, just so that's noted, my opinion as a citizen would be that the township contracts, whatever you want to call it, with the attorneys, so they're in the driver's seat, okay, supposedly. And with your request to have a deadline for it, that deadline could be 2024.
Could be what, 2024?
If we ask for it.
If you ask for a deadline.
Oh.
My thought would be, as a citizen, so that you understand, from my perspective as a citizen, would be with any other contract that I personally have worked on, usually you'll put a deadline in that contract. They put deadlines in contracts all the time.
Right.
Yeah, our money's got to be spent
If you-
before the end of this year, so we
No,
know.
by 2024, you have to have your projects in. By 2026, it has to be spent, and that's my understanding. Now, if that's not correct, somebody can correct me, but even at that, point being, if you've got the extension for the expansion at the end of June, whatever it is,
my point is that we don't have to use that CIP money, the township has money, that the township board has to have a plan, and the plan has to say that they want to expand the senior center, and then they take it out of their overage. They have $4 million.
But doesn't the contract come from the architect? Doesn't he give us a contract?
He's going to sign.
no, what you're asking is that if the board would end up telling the superintendent that she needs to do X amount of work, whatever it is, that instead of saying an extended date, you give them the date, what you think the date should be. If your feeling is that, you know, you've been working on it since, what, 2022? Okay.
Yes.
So your date that she should have that prepared and ready for whatever needs to be done, for whatever your architect, you have to talk with him as to see where he.
I'm meeting with him tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, but
Put
that,
put a date
that's
on
where I'm confused. Doesn't the contractor give you a contract?
Why is it the
other way around?
The architect has given us a proposal
Right.
Yes.
to meet the requirements of our work.
Okay.
And he presented the proposal to the township, we accepted the proposal, and now he needs what he calls a letter of agreement.
So in his
Between the
proposal,
township and himself to perform the work that he proposed.
Can he write that letter of agreement?
He has done that now. I mean,
He shouldn't have had to do that, because when we hire someone, the person that is hiring the other person writes the contract.
based on the proposal, what the
Correct.
work done.
Right. And the cost, and, because that way he is under contract to the township.
Right.
And not the other way around, like he wrote it, I mean, that's the obviously, yeah, no. Should have come from the township.
What Karen told me was that our attorneys would not accept his contract. That's what she said.
Okay,
That's what my ears heard.
okay.
And so they had to rewrite it, and he didn't like that one. That's what she told me with whole up with.
who didn't like it? Maybe we could see that.
Yeah,
Probably not.
probably not.
Who didn't like who didn't like the right, the second writing?
Each one, each way it went.
Okay.
He brought a contract, and Karen said, our attorneys didn't like this contract, so they wrote up a new one, and she said he didn't like that one. That's what I was told as a board member.
Is
So
there
then they have written up a contract.
Supposedly, that's all I can tell you is what I was told by Karen.
Well, shouldn't the board be able to see these contracts that went back?
Well, I would suspect, yeah,
Wouldn't that be nice?
would be nice.
Yeah, I agree. It shouldn't be just up to Karen, it should be the board.
Everything is like this.
I know.
So what do
Trying
we
to get
do?
anything done.
What do we do? You're meeting with the contractor or the architect to look at his proposal or his,
I'm having a meeting with the architect tomorrow to
okay,
see what the problem is.
okay.
And maybe he can share this back and forth contract business.
I've asked him for that.
And there goes back to my previous statements, documentation.
Yeah. Everything, yes.
When did you get this from the township? When did you deny it?
Bring it
When
to-
did you propose it?
bring
When
it to
did
the
they-
board.
Yeah.
Grant, because otherwise it's all, like you said, Karen will say something and it's not written down and it's hearsay and it says it's changes and the next time it's something else, and that's been going on every single subject that I have addressed. But the lawyer said, for instance, when they said the board recommended, and I asked at the board meeting, he said, I know nothing about this. How did the board recommend something that we would have a lawyer sit in our meeting? I said, not only did I not vote for it, I was not even informed about it. And I looked around the board and I said, which one of you guys knew this? And you were the only one that answered. Everybody else hung their head. And he says, I don't have a clue. And we have a letter in front of us in response to what the board wants.
Pertaining to something else.
Well, no, it's the same, it wasn't documented at the record, it's similar. We need everything has to be written down so we can say, this was the date, such and such was presented. Because otherwise we just keep going around and around and around and we can't get anything done.
What time happens?
What time is the meeting tomorrow?
Can we discuss that later?
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else on that right now? It's very disappointing, and it's disrespectful, as we said earlier. And I don't know if she's trying to put pressure on us to just walk away.
That's what I feel like.
I do too.
And then,
Oh,
help, we gotta have help.
we need to help ourselves first, by that means, so.
New business.
New business.
Collaborations. Now, I've asked Karen to have Jenna at this meeting so we could talk about collaborations. Next month, the chairperson for Clinton Transit is coming. She wants to talk about collaboration. I've asked Karen if Karen and you and I, if Karen would come here so we could have a conversation about collaboration, the library wants to collaborate with us, we cannot have a conversation with anyone about collaboration until Jenna is sitting at the table, so that she knows what we're talking about and can participate in the conversation and understands what collaboration is. And so because I've been put off again for having this discussion on collaboration, it's been another month, there's nothing else that I can add to that.
Well, haven't we been told that she is not going to be attending any of our meetings?
I do have a comment on that. I am going to send an email to Jenna and ask her if she can plan the outing to Bronner's, and we have a date picked out already, and that in collaboration with the Blue Bus people, because they've already told me that they would be more than happy to do that, whether it was through the senior center or through us personally. So I would rather it be a senior center outing, and so I am going to go and ask Jenna that information.
The cost, expected cost.
There is no cost
For the Blue Bus?
to the Blue Bus. No, it's free.
Wow.
So,
They had told me that they would be happy to do field trips. I had suggested Love Nuts Games, the Broad Art Museum, that there are lots of things within the community, and she said she would be happy to do that for us.
yes.
But again, we cannot have a conversation with her sitting at this table about collaboration without Jenna and Karen participating in the conversation, because we're likely to say something that no one will support. And it's just embarrassing.
So, we take this to the board also.
Well, and it is a recommendation of the conversation, from the community conversation.
How did you talk to Jenna, that kind of a conversation?
I have not yet. I'm going to ask her if she...
You're not supposed to do that.
You're not supposed to.
You're supposed to go
To Karen.
email Karen.
Okay,
Yeah,
I will email Karen asking about that trip instead of Jenna.
Well, how about
I
we
will
go
do it
through
today.
the board instead?
Well, the board doesn't want to micromanage us. We're supposed to be doing this, so the board doesn't have to.
But then we don't even hear the board, as a board member, I never even hear any of this from Karen. I don't know anything that's going on.
That's correct.
It dead ends right there. So the board, maybe the rest of the board, I don't ever, because I'm on the.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to email Karen, and I will start my documentation, because when we want to go is November, and this is May.
Send it to everybody.
On the board?
Everybody on the board, everybody here, the more people that have it in front of them,
Okay,
the better, to my mind.
okay, I will do that.
And you're right to get started now, because it might take that much.
Yeah, because this is June, July, August, September, October, and I have 6 months to get that to happen, so, okay, thank you.
That's great. I'm glad you're spearheading that.
Again, under new business, B, we have a resignation.
Elaine wanted to say.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lynn.
I'd like to have a craft show at the senior center, like we used to do years ago.
Yes.
Would you like me to include that in my letter?
Sure.
Okay, thank you, I will.
As all of you know, Kim has resigned from her position as not only secretary of the Senior Services Advisory Board, but she has resigned from the board. Personally, I'd like to thank her for her service.
That's time ever. I made this huge list of all the things that we've accomplished in the last year and a half, and I think this board is an amazing group of people, and we're making it happen. We're hitting all of our strategic plan goals, and there's been a lot. Personally, there's been a lot going on with Judy. Personally, I had a lot going on, and we didn't miss a beat. We kept going, and everybody, my committee for the fundraiser showed up every time. There was very few meetings missed, and we met every 2 weeks, and I think that was really what kept us going with communication and meeting our deadlines. There was total support and lots of, it's like Judy said when we went to that bowling outing that was just so much fun. There's so much history of Back Township right there in those bowling lanes. I mean, huge amount of commitment. It's like when I was there at the fundraiser, I had Ben standing next to his graduation picture and took a snapshot of him, and Cindy Chronic took a snapshot of her. I mean, this is where people's blood is. This is where their every changing all of their memories. They're totally committed to the senior center and having it grow and having it be someplace that just brings more and more people with need. And if you look at that list of 7 things, it's social that helps people.
Well, we
To
will
thrive.
terribly miss you.
I'm not going away, I'm just stepping aside a little bit.
Well,
But it's critical that we have someone with the skills that Kim has. We have 2 positions on the Senior Services Advisory Board that are vacant now with Kim's resignation. And we do a lot of work. We are very busy. We have lots that we accomplish and we do it well. But 9 is what we need. We need 9 people to really function, and Marie makes those appointments. I'm
Do
just,
we need to make an announcement?
excuse
At the
me?
Senior Center, do we need to make an announcement that we're looking for 2 people to fill those positions?
it doesn't necessarily have to be seniors.
It is in the Friday report, but the Friday report doesn't go to the patrons of the Senior Center. Again, on a meat and potatoes day, I haven't been to the Senior Center, I was there the other day, but I wasn't there today. But, when there are a lot of people there, I think it's the best time.
There were a lot of people today.
Yeah, for the chicken. Yeah.
But see, this one, this too.
Wasn't Mary there? Anyways, never mind. Okay, so we do have to accept Kim's resignation.
Oh, man.
I'll make a motion that we accept Kim's resignation. Is there a second?
She can still give you her 2 cents.
What'd you do that for?
Oh, because that's what she wants?
Now it's time for discussion.
Yeah.
It has been suggested to me that we ask Kim to postpone her resignation until June, but I know that Kim feels that she needs this time for her own personal family, and so I would support accepting her resignation with the understanding, and she's been very clear with me and others, that if we need her, she will help us. So I would ask all those in favor of her accepting her resignation, say aye.
Aye.
And
I
those,
say aye, but I'm also going to ask if she would continue until we have a final report on the tribute.
Absolutely. I already talked to Dennis, because he asked me to wait a month, and I said, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm all about tying this up and making it,
she needs to step away, but she also is committed to finish the work,
for sure.
the reporting.
Well, thank you.
We'll get her.
All those opposed, say aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Kim, very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
It's my pleasure.
Superintendent's report, she has included in this report, her superintendent's update says, we are back open and full staff since COVID outbreak last week. There were 2 people that had COVID last week. Maintenance has been done on the deck and it has been restained. Outdoor furniture will be placed for the enjoyment of the outdoors. She also says in here that she will be leaving today. She's going out of state, and that she will return the first part of June.
Is she on vacation or just out?
She does not say.
Okay.
So, could we have an update from our representative from the Board of Trustees? Cheryl?
I've pretty much said everything that along the way here that I have to bring back from the board. Is there anything to think of, Marie, that we talked about that should be?
Private citizen.
Well, yeah, private citizen that was at the board meeting, but everything that I bring back from the board as we gone along here.
Any public comments? Thank you very much. Any public comments?
We just
Elaine?
had 4 meetings,
What?
first and third,
What is the next trustee
First
meeting?
and third Monday.
At 6 o'clock.
So the 19th of June?
Or board meeting?
When's the next trustees meeting?
When's the next senior services advisory board meeting?
Trustees.
Trustees meeting.
Monday.
Oh, so we missed it, we
No,
just
don't
met, it's June, yeah.
It's June,
Yeah.
it's the first Monday of June. June 5th?
Yep,
June 5th,
At,
that's a board meeting.
the Board of Trustees.
That's not in 2 weeks.
I think it is.
That's the first day. Yeah,
6 p.m.
It's 6 p.m.
And the trustees?
6 p.m.
That's when the trustees meet,
Okay.
June 5th.
And the 5th and 19th.
This board, next meeting will be June 21st.
Can I make one citizen's
Yes,
observation? They usually will have on their agenda 2 public speaking, okay? One deals with the agenda, that's the first one. So if there's something on the agenda addressing what you're looking at, and that obviously can be placed in it, then you have a right to speak, your 3 minutes. The second one is almost to the end of the meeting, so that's a closer one. That's open to anything that you want to say.
so if we're asking, if I'm filling out this form, or making up a form for people so that they can bring it with them, would they speak first, or would they speak at the very end?
Unless you put that form in the packet, and it's on the agenda.
How do we get it on the agenda?
The agenda calls for committee reports.
Right.
And so we can ask to be on the agenda as a committee report at the June 5th meeting. And then, because we were on the agenda, then people could speak at the beginning of the meeting.
Correct. But it needs to be on the agenda.
Oh, yeah, it's much better, because otherwise the meetings go on until 8:30, 9 o'clock.
But as long as it's on the agenda, you're okay.
Any other comments by board members? Thank you very much for your time, your wisdom, your knowledge, and your experience, and for being here today. Meeting adjourned. We'll meet again on June